Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of So Napa Grill,
Jade Sullivan, Events and Marketing Coordinator. Tony, Aspect Fine Wines.
Yes. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Good morning.
and it's part of Breakthru Beverage.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So we're the fine wine division, if you will, trying to work specifically with family-owned producers, domestic as well as international.
And we have Gavin Honig
We do.
of Honig Winery. And I know you've tasted me on the Sauv Blanc, but I'm really excited to taste too and to kind of learn. I don't know anything about Honig, and so to learn a little bit about the winery and what you do there, let's get after it.
Yeah.
Or should we get?
We got the full lineup today.
We should actually get some wine in the glasses. And I know that for all of the listeners, it is 10:08 in the morning.
I always try to take care of people that are thirsty.
That's it.
That's my job.
Well, according to Joe Bates, and I don't know this to be fact, your taste buds are the sharpest this early in the morning.
They are, because you don't have what they call palate fatigue
Oh, okay. Wow.
throughout the day. So whether you're having a large lunch,
Thanks, Tony.
let's say, or perhaps something with a lot of garlic, and it might
Right.
destroy your palate a little bit. So this is the start of the day. You're supposed to taste.
What I do know is you're located in Rutherford.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we're like pretty much, geographically, we're like right in the center of the valley.
Okay.
Kind of right in between the two like main arteries of Napa,
Right.
Highway 29 and Silverado. You've been in Napa
Oh, yeah.
a couple
yeah.
times, I assume. So kind of like dead center in the valley.
Okay.
And I'll go into the history a little bit, but we've been there since, my family's been there since 1964.
And you're third generation?
I'm part of the fourth generation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting involved in the
Awesome.
business. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, started in 1960 or purchased a property in 1964.
Yeah.
So that's early.
It was definitely, it was a good time to get in there because Napa was, was kind of becoming recognized, but it wasn't really as developed as it is today. And, it changed a lot through the 70s and 80s and stuff. But basically, it goes back to my great-grandfather.
Right.
He was in the advertising business in San Francisco back in the 50s and 60s. He did advertising for a bunch of big West Coast firms like Wells Fargo, C&H Sugar, Clorox, Levi Strauss. And then there was this company called Italian Swiss Colony Wines. And they used to make a bunch of wine back in the day, like kind of like almost like jug wine, like Carlo Rossi style, nothing crazy. Just making, just kind of as Americans were drinking more wine through that time, this company was really kind of up and coming. And he worked closely with them. The president of that company was a Frenchman named Louis Petri, and they became close friends and their wives became friends. And they went up to the valley and enjoyed Napa together and tasted, went to parties, really kind of saw what it was about. But at the time, there was only like, a couple really established wineries. So he saw the opportunity, he saw the potential, and he bought our property in Rutherford from the Wagner family that runs Camus in 1964.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And there was only like 2 acres of Zinfandel vines planted at the time. It was mostly walnut trees and
Yeah, that sounds
there was
about
like
right.
a bullpen. They used to have like cows and chickens running around there, but there wasn't much going on. 68-acre ranch, and he set us up.
Wow.
That's kind of how it started. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
And since then, obviously, you replanted. You have more than 2 acres under vine, I'm sure.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And we changed it up a little bit. So yeah, during like it was like through the 70s, we were planting Cabernet and Merlot and Sauv Blanc, and now we have about 50 acres planted, about half white grapes, half red grapes, all Bordeaux varietals that we use for our wines.
Awesome. So what do we have in our glass right now?
Yeah, we'll talk about the Sauv Blanc a little bit here. This is really the one that started it all, and we call this one the classic.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little more of a blend, but this one is pretty much all Sauv Blanc. It's funny even mentioning there's 1% of Semillon in there from our property, so just a little touch. But yeah, it's always made in stainless steel tanks, very crisp and clean.
Right.
And
We
consider ourselves like early pioneers of Sauv Blanc. This is the first wine we ever made in 1980. So we didn't start with red, we started with white. And that was a little bit of a different approach at the time because Napa was, I mean, Rutherford is still overwhelmingly known for, Cabernet and Merlot and stuff
Rutherford
like that.
dust.
Exactly. But it's really great area, or it's a really great area for growing Sauv Blanc as well as Semillon and some other white varietals. So, there was some like research coming out of UC Davis at the time, talking about the potential for Sauv Blanc and other white Bordeaux varieties in Napa, and some other people were experimenting with it and making those wines in the area, and we kind of got inspired and wanted to differentiate ourselves and made our first Sauv Blanc in 1980, and supposedly back then. We hadn't really figured things out. Like I've heard the wine was just like kind of okay, but we saw, we kind of, were improving over the years technologically, getting tanks and like
better
kind of refining the winemaking and stuff like that.
No, that's better than OJ.
Right? It's a good way to start the day.
Yeah.
So, we've definitely come a long way and kind of like perfected this wine, so to say, this style of Sauv Blanc. It didn't start out that way, but we learned to make it into this nice balanced style.
So Gavin, if I'm not mistaken, I think being this was the first wine that was being produced and sold, I remember a story, if I'm not mistaken, about your Uncle Mike, where he would load this in his station wagon.
Yeah.
And just go around and selling it out of the car?
Totally. Yeah, so that's kind of like the early struggles.
Sure.
I mean, it was like his thing, like he'd call people up and be like, hey, this is my Uncle Michael. Basically, going back just a little bit, my great-grandfather, his name was Louis Honig. Everyone called him Billy for some reason. I don't know why that was his nickname. It doesn't make any sense. But he wanted to retire and make wine on the property, but he passed away before he could do that. So that's kind of also what prompted us to do it, something kind of in his honor. And like I was saying, it wasn't going well at first. That's when my uncle stepped in. So he basically dropped out of college when he was 22 and took over the struggling family business. And he would call people up and say, hey, it's Michael Honig. We have this really beautiful Sauv Blanc from my family's vineyard in Rutherford. I'd love to taste you on it. I'd love to, sell you some, whatever it was. And people would be like, Michael who? Sauvignon what? Like they'd never heard of it, So he really grew the business like organically, started selling in Napa and San Francisco. And like Tony was saying, like loading up his car and just, trying to unload all those cases before he went home. So it's kind of the origin.
Wow.
And it all started with this one. We didn't start making cab until 84. So
nice. Well, I would say that over the course of the last couple of years, I feel that we've gotten to know some of the smaller producers, family owned, and some of the families, the third or fourth generation wants really nothing to do with the whole process of farming and growing the grapes and just, because the land is so valuable, they would rather kind of walk away from the family business. Here you are, fourth generation.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of.
Did you grow up in Napa?
That's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I grew up in Marin County, so pretty in between San Francisco and Napa.
Yeah.
About like 45 minutes away. So I didn't grow up on the vineyard, but my dad, he worked for the winery, or he still works for the winery. He manages sales in California.
Steve?
So, yep, that's my pops. Yeah. Nice. So I grew up basically helping him, like going to restaurants, delivering wine. He'd be driving, I'd be putting in orders on his phone. That's cool. And then, I spent a lot of time in the vineyards and at the winery and, weekends, summers, all that. It took me a while to actually kind of get up there and live there. That was after college when I started working there. But
where'd you go to school?
I went to UC Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Yeah, not too far away. Nice. Banana Slugs, yeah.
All right.
So that's our mascot.
Banana Slugs.
We don't have a very good football team. If you know,
we're the Banana Slugs.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, what is a banana slug and what is it good at?
Yeah, not much, honestly. Good at slugging around. Yeah. But
which major in?
I was a political science and history major.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was very much. I love wine, and I had a great appreciation for the business and restaurants and stuff. I'd worked in restaurants and all that, but I didn't really see myself doing the wine thing. I was kind of interested in other things. I was kind of thinking about maybe like going like the teaching route or something like that. But COVID really kind of put a big it was kind of this big disruption and kind of like weird times. And I felt I kind of wanted to do something a little more hands-on.
Right.
Kind of like as my first gig out of school, and I started working in the tasting room, and that's really how I got involved. I worked there for a couple months, and then our winemaker Kristen, who I've known my whole life, I mean, she came up to me and was kind of like, hey, we could use some people in the cellar. You're a pretty big guy, like they could use you there for sure, and started working in the cellar, and I did 2 harvests there, and that's kind of furthered my appreciation and involvement and all that.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Jade, you got a degree in political science, didn't you? And look at that. Now you're in wine too.
I know.
Yeah.
That's where we all go.
From political science, who wants to be in that? F politics.
Politicians and all politics stuff.
Yeah.
I need to have a class of time to get into.
Exactly.
Food and wine is a lot more fun.
It is.
Definitely.
It's not necessarily a job, it's a lifestyle.
That's all right.
Let's move on.
Sure.
So, classic was tasting good for you all.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It has a bite to it at the end that kind of lingers.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a little bit of that like nice kind of like citrusy quality, and it's, as I was saying, I mean, it's made pretty simply, but there's a couple things we do to kind of give it a little more oomph, and that's like stirring up the lees in the tanks a little bit, so giving it a little weight and stuff. But this wine is really a big change up. There's a lot more kind of going on with the winemaking, so to say, in this one. And it's also our estate Sauv Blanc. It's a blend. It's 89% SB, and then the rest is Semillon. So it's all grown on our property in Rutherford.
And just explain, because Jade is new at this, when something is estate, what specifically does that mean?
Yeah. So basically it means that like it's from our property that we own and we're farming it. And it's, the bottling is just those vines. So it's from our property. We're not buying in any fruit for this.
And it's
wine.
bottled also on the property.
Yeah, everything we make, we do, we buy in fruit from other vineyards for some of the wines, but we make everything on property and bottle it and ship it out of there. So yeah. But we're happy to like have this wine in our lineup, because a lot of times people ask, oh, where are the vineyards for this wine? Where's this from? And it's really a blend of vineyards.
Sure.
It's a little bit of fruit from our property and other Napa vineyards, but we're also using about 50% of the fruit is from Lake County, which is to the northeast. So a little bit of a cooler region. But this is just Rutherford. It represents that kind of terroir and all that, and you get a little bit of that this really nice kind of like fullness to the wine, but also this nice tangy acidity that we love in Sauv Blanc. And we were talking a little bit about Rutherford dust, but I always find that there's a little like kind of like a touch of the Rutherford dust, but in a white wine, it's this nice kind of like.
I find that it's this is, I don't want to say it's completely different, but it's such a different mouthfeel. It feels a little bit creamier to a certain degree, and but definitely different flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it has a little bit more richness and textures. That would make it a little bit more food-oriented style of a wine.
Agreed.
Sauvignon Blanc, where this can be fun just on its own. Or
that could be fun at 10 in the morning, getting onto a boat, being out of the pool. Right. I mean, that is, that's good.
Having lunch with oysters and shellfish, nice light salads and fresh ingredients for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is totally one to sit down with over the course of a meal. Right. It's really like layers in the wine. And lots of different stuff going on. It's kind of, it's really fun to make. It gets a little, not super complicated, but it gets a little tricky with all the barrels. A third of it is fermented in barrel.
Okay.
And then the rest of it is fermented in stainless steel tanks like this. And then it all ends up going to barrel for aging for about 8 months. It's all in French oak. We're using larger barrels, puncheons. Basically, so that's a little bit more of like a lighter touch with the oak, especially if you're using newer barrels. But yeah, it rests in those barrels for 8 months, and that's where you get this kind of like more kind of round and creamy texture, but also you still get that character of the Sauv Blanc and the Semillon, a little bit of that like crispness and tanginess, and then also the floral component and a little bit of that.
Well, it adds to the complexity, but also that has to add to just the cost of making that wine. Because if you're going to make a Sauv Blanc, you could just simply put it into stainless steel, be done with it, release it within the, by the end of the year, you're releasing it. With this, if you're going to age it for 8 months and you're going to barrel ferment, that means you got to punch it down. You got to fuck around with it a lot.
Definitely. There's a lot more that goes into this. And this is all, honestly, like our winemakers, like it's really cool to see them work with this wine because there's so much work that goes into it, especially with like selecting the barrels and making sure that everything is, topped up and aged perfectly and all that. So I love sharing this with people, and I think this is just a wine that like every year I'm so excited to see it.
What is the production on this? I would assume being Cabernet is the cash cow crop, if you will. Yeah,
this one it's not. We make a couple hundred cases of this one, so it's not like as big production as our classic or our Napa Cab, but hence the reserve labeling there.
Nice.
And it's a pretty bottle. You can see there's any kind of paper. It's just everything's just.
Well, I thought that when you showed it to me, I don't know. We've tried it. Let's say in the last year and a half, and you showed me that the bottle is kind of see through, and it is. Yeah, you see the label on. You see that?
You can see the estate, right?
Yeah, totally. So a little bit like a picture of where some of the grapes are from.
Yeah,
and get people interested in the bottle, and then once they taste the wine, usually they're like, "Whoa, this is pretty good," Most people.
That could be something to talk about. The fact that the lighter glass. Maybe you want to touch on that.
Yeah.
Especially going on.
Here, let me see if
solar.
I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Wait,
so
you might be able to see it on camera.
I know. Let's see.
Certified sustainable and all that. So there's a couple things like we do to try to mitigate, the effects of making a good amount of wine.
Okay.
And one of those things is using lighter weight glass. So there was this trend in Napa for a while using like heavier bottles.
Sure.
And, because, just kind of, I guess it was just, kind of trying to match some of the wines to the, the aesthetic of the bottle and all that. I don't know what was going on back then, but really it was like a nightmare with shipping. And just, if you're making a good amount of this wine, it's going to take a lot more energy to, make it and move it around and all that. So lightweight glass is one way we can kind of mitigate that. We're also, solar powered, certified sustainable in the vineyard, so we don't spray insecticides, pesticides.
Would you say, and you're there, so you kind of know all the other families that are in the hood, right? And you know more or less.
A little bit. Yeah, I'm not as connected to Napa as I would like to be, but I definitely got.
But let's say your family has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm getting at is most of the wineries up there are sustainable. When I'm talking family owned, I almost think it's a non-negotiable in today's day and age. If you're in Napa, you want to leave that land better than when you received it. You want to farm sustainably. You want to be able to be proud of every bottle that you put out. And I think that if you don't do those things, that you would be an outcast.
Yeah, or you're making a lot, like a lot of wine.
Right.
It's it kind of varies a little bit. I think that's kind of the way a lot of people are moving now, especially just, it's kind of, we're seeing, we've seen a lot of changes in Napa, especially with, kind of the climate and the fires and all that stuff. So it's people want to, you gotta readjust at some point. So,
Nice.
So definitely, we consider ourselves early pioneers of Sauv Blanc, and then also, sustainability. We've been doing that for a while. Michael was really, kind of forward with helping with the guidelines for that in Napa and all those things. So we're happy to be, happy to be doing it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, are we transitioning to?
You guys ready to shift gears? Is your palate ready for some rinse?
I don't know. I still don't have any palate fatigue. I'm really
we
at the top of my game right now, Tony.
Let's put it in third gear then.
So have you all had this one before, or this is your first time trying it?
No, I had it within the last. I would say, within the last year. Tony tasted us on it, and
nice.
Yeah, I just remember that label. I'm like, man, that is so cool.
Yeah.
I know you came to some of my events. I try to always show these.
Because a lot of people know. This is definitely a little more well known, but these wines, the reserve ones, are always fun to show people because they're kind of a different side of what we do. A little bit of dimension in each category. We do just focus on Sauv Blanc and Cabernet, so you're not going to see any Honig, Chardonnay, or Merlot or anything like that. But we do work with some other varietals. Yeah.
And I tell you, this is really drinking nice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is, I'm getting, I would say, more ripe fruit on the front palate, but very well balanced. Jade?
I agree. It's very good. I like the fact that every wine we've tried, the taste is like very specific, like towards the end, like after you've already swallowed it, you're like, okay, like you can still feel that some wines they just kind of go away.
Yeah,
and this one is really like it's in your memory, like in there.
Totally.
Oh yeah,
that's the sign of
that's
well-made wine, because there's some lingering effects and tastes.
Yes, which is really nice.
And I am getting some of the aspects that I like of a wine. I am getting hints of tobacco on the back end, and this is nice.
Yeah, Napa Cab here. So we've been making this one since '84. Started off as just kind of our estate fruit, but we've been working with some other vineyards, and it's really kind of a fun wine to put together. I mean, it's made to represent Napa.
Right.
This one is 92% Cab, the 2022 vintage here.
Okay.
And it's really Cab from our vineyard in Rutherford, as well as the Bartolucci family vineyard a little farther north in St. Helena.
Okay.
And we'll try the single vineyard expression next. But that's really what makes up the Cabernet in there. And then we're growing some Malbec, a little bit of Merlot, and Cab Franc, Petit Verdot as well that goes in there. So
it seems there's been a string of great vintages, and maybe you can speak to the fact that the temperatures have been rising, year after year in the region, in Rutherford and Napa. And how do you guys mitigate that? How do you work with that?
Yeah, I mean, and we're tasting 2022 here, so it's definitely kind of an example. Like, it was kind of looking like a pretty easygoing, balanced season, and then we got hit with this really kind of intense heat wave later in the growing season. So that's just an example.
We were out there in 2022, and it was hot as. Is it okay to say it was hot as balls?
It was, yes.
It was.
I was working. Yeah, I was there in the cellar at that time, and it was like that. Yeah, it was an intense heat wave for sure.
But then it was almost.
You're wrong to say that.
No, but then it was almost 2022. And you were able to pick a little bit sooner. But then the flip side of that is 2023, which may go down as one of the best years. We were out there in September of 2023, and the whole month of September, all the wineries we were going to, we got nothing to do. We got interns. We don't have any work for them because it was such a late harvest in 2023.
Yeah, no, we're excited for those wines to come out. I mean, you see it in this. It's like just totally very balanced, very easygoing season. 22 is a little different, but what I like about it is, I mean, we ended up with this really nice, like this beautiful kind of like fruit profile, like you're saying, that kind of like beautiful kind of ripe Cabernet fruit character. And it's a little like, not necessarily softer, but it's just a little more approachable on like the tannin side of things.
I agree.
And that's like a nice change up from, we'll try 2021 next. That was like a super intense year, very like small berries, not so much water, and just kind of like a different profile.
Yeah.
Really takes some more time to unwind. And I think in today's market, it's nice to have something that's, a little bit more easygoing and approachable. You can pop the cork and just drink it. So.
And it's not as grippy.
Grippy.
Yeah.
Yeah, those tannins seem to be very, they're there, they're in the party.
Yeah.
Hey, we're here, but they're not aggressive, overtaking the party.
As Joe would say, they're not riding in the front seat. You got the fruit, the balance, and the grippiness is in the back seat.
Yeah. And I think that has to be a little bit with the oak regiment too. That's that's being utilized.
Yeah, totally.
So what's the oak regiment?
Yeah, so it's kind of a blend for this one. We're using French and American oak.
Okay.
So you're getting a little bit of like the best from both worlds, kind of that nice baking spice and that nice kind of like pretty like vanilla character from the French oak, and a little more of that like toastiness and kind of like caramelly character from the American oak. But it's not so much in your face because we're using about 40% new oak in this. So not like, it's definitely there, but it's not like, fully like
Right.
kind of fresh oak, as I like to say.
No,
it's in check, in balance.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The middle row of the transit van.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, the middle row of the transit van.
Don't want to be in the back of that. Yeah.
No.
It's a bumpy ride. But yeah, I'm just so happy with the way it's drinking. It's really been fun to show people.
You know what? And I got to tell you that I cannot remember the last time I had a sip or a bottle of Honig Cab, and I'm excited to say that this has been an absolute treat.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for tasting. And a little bit of dimension in each category here. So this is our single vineyard.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is like kind of like the big brother to the Napa Cab in a way. This is all fruit from a vineyard we work with in St. Helena. So a little bit farther north, tucked up against the western side of the valley there, at the base of Spring Mountain. Really kind of a true benchland vineyard. And this one, we're going back to 2021 here. So this is kind of what I'm saying. It's definitely got a little more intensity in some regards.
So it's at you said at the base of Spring Mountain.
Yeah, St. Helena appellation, but right at the base of Spring Mountain.
Okay.
Tucked up against the side of the valley, and we've been working with them since 1999.
Okay,
it's a really awesome family. And it was the first single vineyard we ever made, and most of the Cabernet goes in the Napa Cab there.
Okay,
and we're using the best kind of southern part of that vineyard for this production right here.
Wow.
Now, is this a blended wine with other varietals, or just?
This is just Cabernet. Yeah,
just
100% Cabernet.
100% Cab.
One vineyard, one varietal.
Wow. And the winemaker?
So, Ashley Egelhoff is our winemaker. She's super awesome. She's been with us for years now. Kristen is our kind of like original winemaker. She's still with us, but she's changed roles. She's now our director of sustainability and wine growing. So she's really focusing on our vineyard and then some of the other vineyards we work with, like Bartolucci and other Napa vineyards, Lake County vineyards. And they really, do a good job of kind of like this like approachability, but also with structure, serious wines, but things that you can still like, drink in a wide array of people can enjoy. So,
I got to tell you, this is, the Napa Cab, I thought was drinking beautifully.
Some like a little bit of some of this kind of fruit components of it, you feel kind of some similarities, but this for me, it's so pretty, like on the nose, especially. It's not like it's intense and there's so much structure and like, tannin, acid, all that.
Sure.
But it's not over the top. It's still drinking well. That being said, you can also tell when you taste this wine that it can go the distance.
Right.
I mean, 21 kind of reminds me a little bit of like 2013 as a vintage. And those wines, I had a 13 Bartolucci recently, and it's like drinking amazing. Like they're so good, but they're, they still got a lot of life left in them. It's just
There's
one
no
of those,
doubt.
just one of those years,
I see that.
So
What would you say the potential for this would be if you wanted to lay it down in a wine cellar?
I would say, this will age a long time. I would say in the next 7 or 8 years, it's going to be really ripping.
I think I would agree with that.
Hitting its peak.
Yeah. I would say so, but
it would never
always
last
depends.
that long.
Yeah, exactly.
It would never last that long in our wine cooler.
Like there's nothing like aged Napa Cab or really like aged, like perfectly aged wine in general. But like this, it's made that kind of that way. Like you can still drink it a little bit younger, but when you give it that time, it'll just open up, and you're gonna get so much of that like that spice, and that also that kind of like a little bit of that kind of like soil character, like that kind of dustiness, or like it's really
the
really
style for me
nicely.
really it just screams Cabernet.
Yeah,
it's a classic style. You can taste the varietal. There's a precision to it and the purity behind it, and it almost tastes like something that was made like in the 80s.
No, I
before the manipulation in the 90s, where everybody was making 15%, 16%.
Right. No, I think that.
Alcohol wines.
So elegant. I think elegant is what I would say about this.
Elegant, and just it does have the structure, as you mentioned, Gavin.
Definitely. Yeah, it's tasting good.
Tasting really good.
For 10 a.m. or whatever,
It's 10:36 now. It's like, we've been drinking for a half hour.
Trying to throw a ribeye on the grill.
Yeah, right. Definitely a good one with food. I think it's like this. It's nice to have like if you're having something like with a little bit of a richer dish, something with like a sauce that's reduced. Like this is so perfect.